My name is Isabella, and if you had asked me 5 years ago what love looked like, I would have described something quiet, enduring, sacrificial. I believed that if I tried harder, stayed softer, and forgave faster, everything would eventually settle into place. I was 36, living just outside Denver with my husband of 8 years, Tyler. To the outside world, we were stable. He was charismatic, sharply dressed, leading a sales team at a major real estate firm. I worked in accounting, paid half the bills, cooked most of the meals, handled the cleaning, remembered birthdays, sent holiday cards, and convinced myself that exhaustion was proof of devotion. On June 12th, our anniversary and his birthday, I decided to do something special, maybe to remind both of us that there was still something worth saving. I left work early, drove 30 minutes for his favorite wine, stopped at a specialty butcher for Wagyu short ribs, ordered a custom cake, ironed the ivory tablecloth, set candles around the balcony, and put on the navy dress he once said made me look refined. I remember looking at the clock at 7:03 p.m., feeling hopeful. By 8:17, the candles had begun melting unevenly. By 9:46, my phone screen felt heavier each time I checked it. At 10:35 p.m., an email came through, client emergency. Staying at the office. We'll celebrate later. No heart emoji. No apology. No acknowledgement of our anniversary. Just a sterile sentence that felt copied from a corporate template. I didn't cry. I cleaned the table, wrapped the untouched meat, placed the cake back in the fridge, and went to bed in my dress. Something shifted inside me that night, not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. The next morning at work, I called his office just to confirm he was safe. The receptionist hesitated before saying, "He resigned 3 days ago." I remember gripping the hallway wall because my vision blurred. 3 days. My husband had quit his job 3 days ago and I didn't know. I drove home with my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I unlocked the door, I saw his shoes missing from the rack. In the bedroom, he stood beside an open suitcase. Folded suits. New ties. Documents neatly stacked. "What are you doing?" I asked, though I already knew. "I accepted a position in Albuquerque," he replied calmly, not looking at me. Then he placed a folder on the dresser. "Divorce papers." Just like that. "You're not the wife I need anymore," he said, as if reciting a line he'd practiced. He told me I wasn't attentive enough, that I put work first, that the house felt lifeless. I stared at him in disbelief. I worked because he insisted on splitting everything equally. I cooked, and he said he'd eaten with clients. I tried to talk, and he said he was tired. "I don't owe you anything," he said when I demanded an explanation. 8 years, reduced to a sentence. He walked out without looking back. A week after the divorce finalized, he sent me an email titled Proof. Attached was a marriage certificate dated 1 day after our divorce. Groom, Tyler Robert James. Bride, Marissa Ellis Whitmore. He called immediately, his voice thick with triumph. She was beautiful, he said. From a powerful real estate family in Santa Fe. Her parents gifted them a house. He was now executive vice president at her company. She was 3 months pregnant. He spoke slowly, deliberately, as if carving each word into me. After I hung up, I searched her name. When her photo appeared, I stopped breathing. I knew her. High school. Marissa Ellis. The quiet girl in the back row with acne scars and crooked teeth, the one classmates mocked. But the woman in the wedding photo looked sculpted by a master artist, sharp jawline, refined nose, luminous skin. Surgery had erased the visible past, but not her eyes. I called my old friend Lana. "Oh, she reinvented herself in New York," Lana said. "Multiple procedures. Total transformation. But she's strategic. Always aiming upward." That word stayed with me. Upward. Tyler hadn't left for love. He had left for elevation. 3 months later, he called again. This time his voice trembled. She gave birth, he said. Silence. The baby doesn't look like us. I felt a strange calm wash over me. I did a DNA test. She's mine, he rushed to say. Of course she was. She looks like old me. The teenage version he never showed in photos. Curly hair. Crooked teeth. Acne. Genetics doesn't care about money. It doesn't respect reinvention. Marissa won't hold her, he whispered. I felt something heavy settle in my chest, not satisfaction, but grief for a child born into two parents ashamed of themselves. He asked why I had laughed when he first told me about Marissa's pregnancy. I told him because I remembered high school, because you can rebuild a face but not erase blood, because pretending to be reborn doesn't make it true. He grew defensive, then quiet. I told him the only innocent person in that house was their daughter, and if he projected his shame onto her, he would destroy her long before the world ever tried. Then I blocked his number. But the story didn't end there. During our divorce, something had felt off. Tyler moved too fast, too confident. I asked my attorney to review the financial disclosures again. It turned out he had hidden debts, aggressive property flips, maxed credit lines, personal loans. He had presented himself to Marissa's family as financially impressive, but much of it was illusion. When Marissa later filed for divorce, yes, she eventually did, her family hired forensic accountants. The truth surfaced like rot beneath polished floors. The executive VP title vanished overnight. The house had always been in her father's name. Tyler wasn't building an empire, he was borrowing one. And when the illusion cracked, there was nothing underneath but ego and debt. Nearly 2 years passed before I heard the final update. Tyler had cheated on Marissa with a new hire. Marissa discovered it but tried to stay for their daughter. Meanwhile, their little girl started preschool. Other children repeated what they heard adults whisper, "Your mom used to be ugly." The child cried for days. Marissa, who had spent years sculpting herself into flawlessness, now faced a daughter who carried the original features she had erased. And Tyler, who once accused me of failing as a wife, found himself unemployed, divorced again, paying child support, and living in a rented condo far smaller than the life he once flaunted. 3 years after he left me alone at a candlelit table, he called from an unknown number. His voice was smaller. He asked if I ever missed us. I realized I had grieved the marriage long before he packed that suitcase. The real ending was the night he chose not to come home. "Why are you so calm?" he asked. "Because I already survived losing you while you were still beside me," I thought. I told him I hoped he would become a better father than he had been a husband. Then I ended the call. Today, I live in Boulder. Smaller apartment. Sunlight on the balcony. I reduced my hours, take art classes, spend slow afternoons with Nathan, who understands that love isn't loud, it's steady. There are no grand gestures here, no glittering illusions. Just honesty. I used to think being left meant I wasn't enough. Now I understand I was too real for someone chasing perfection. Tyler wanted a flawless wife, a flawless image, a flawless child. But life doesn't bend to vanity. Time exposes everything. And in the end, the only thing that survived the collapse of his perfect world was the quiet strength I rebuilt inside myself. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to compete. I simply stepped aside and let truth do what it always does, arrive, slowly but relentlessly. And when it did, it didn't destroy me. It freed me.